Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Teacher Development Webinars. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Amanullah Sand. I facilitate virtual programs at Teacher Development Webinars. Teacher Development Webinars is a social action project to support teachers and educators around the world with professional development opportunities. It is an initiative using the rise in online professional development to connect people from around the world with opportunities which they may not have had due to the old normal of face-to-face conferences. And we are pleased to have Dr. Thiago Costa for this webinar. Dr. Thiago Costa is a passionate educator and language learner. He currently works as an English professor and teacher trainer at the Federal University of Paraíba in Brazil. Thiago has been hooked on learning and teaching a language and has had the fortune to express diverse educational environments since 1999. In 2019, Thiago represented his country in a teacher excellence program at Temple University in Philadelphia. Also in the same year, he was part of the US Embassy panel on teacher leadership in Brazil at the 2019 TESOL International Convention. Thiago is a lifelong learner and loves linguistics. He had majored in English at the Federal University of Paraíba, where he has also earned his master's and PhD degrees. Thiago believes that education is the key to success. What a pleasure it is to have you at Teacher Development Webinars, Dr. Thiago. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Amanullah, for the amazing and kind introduction. Yes, I'm so happy to be with all here tonight. Oh, sorry, this morning, because we are in a different timetable, so I'm a bit confused. So I'm so happy to have you all here joining me for this teacher development webinars. And as Amanullah said, I'm Thiago Costa. I'm from Brazil, and I'm very thrilled to have you all joining us for this session today on fostering intercultural communication and critical awareness in EAL classes. I hope you are all hearing me well, listening me too well. The volume is okay. Is everything all right? Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
So, yeah, it's okay?
Yes,
the sound is okay? All right.
Yes.
And as Amanullah mentioned, I have had the fortune to experience diverse educational spaces with different levels of learners and trainee teachers throughout my professional life. And I can tell you, I can attest that education is the key to success. Yeah, so I believe so. So welcome you all. Please feel free to express your thoughts in the chat. Yes, you are welcome to express your opinions. And I hope that I can bring plenty of food for thought for all of you. My intention here is to bring you reflections, because it's going to be as a conversation. We are going to talk a lot about this topic that I think it's really interesting for all of us. Okay, so let me share my screen just for a minute. Can't you see?
Perfect, good to go.
All right, let me just put it here. Okay. So we can start with this image, but we are not going to talk about this image right now. We are going to have a moment that we are going to I'm going to present you this image, but this is just the cover of our presentation. As I mentioned, the theme I choose, fostering intercultural communication and critical awareness in EAL classes. So I hope that you can reflect and think about the many things we are going to discuss here on this session today. All right. Let me just, oops. Okay. So the first thing I would like to put here on the screen to show you how far I am in relation to Amanullah. Yes. He's in Pakistan, so I think maybe most part of our audience here is on the same place, but I know that we have people from all around the world. So wherever you are watching us from, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So it depends. Here in Brazil, depending on the point of view, from Pakistan, I'm 8 hours behind. And from Brazil, I'm from Pakistan, yes, you are talking to me 8 hours behind. And then I'm talking to you 8 hours ahead. You are ahead, okay? And it's interesting how internet and this globalized world can connect us. So I'm here at breakfast time, and then maybe you are after lunch time, yes, in the end, almost in the evening, yes, in the middle of the afternoon. And then we are discussing something that it's interesting for everyone at the same time, even if we are in different timetables. Yes, so you see, in fact, I live in the northeast of Brazil. Yes, it's a region that usually you have we can say just two weathers, the sunny weather and the rainy weather. We don't have like the four seasons. They are not, they don't present us very specifically as winter, fall, summer, spring. No, usually here on this region we have just what we call the rainy weather and the sunny weather. Right now we are in the middle of the rainy weather. Yes, so this morning it's okay, it's a beautiful day outside, but some days ago we were facing some really heavy rain. Yes, but now it's a beautiful Saturday. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. All right. So let's move on. Well, English as an additional language, the EAL, as I choose it. So I'm going to refer to all of you, including me, as EAL teachers. Okay. So EAL teachers are constantly challenged to address cultural diversity beyond the Fs. Yes, so pay attention to that. So when I'm talking about the Fs, I'm talking about food, folk dancing, festivals, fashion, flags. And we do this because we are trying to avoid the reduction of culture to visible and superficial parts. So knowing this, let's talk about the goals of this session, okay? I have to try to move our pictures because, because it was in the middle of the screen here, the faces here. So let's try to think about the goals for this session. First of all, I'd like to guide language educators to move beyond the surface level of acknowledgement of cultures. So, as I told you, I'm going to bring you food for thought that you can reflect before you plan, or when you are planning to use some kind of something related to culture in your classroom. Okay. My second objective today is to bring some possibilities to foster cultural awareness in language classroom, okay? And to promote the reflection on how to raise learners' perception to embed culture in the heart of teaching, okay? And as I mentioned, I hope I can help you, language educators, to move beyond the surface level, what we can call this surface level. So I think that these possibilities are going to help you a lot. And I'm going to try to make a comparison to try to contextualize in the Brazilian perspective, how we study, how we deal with this cultural diversity. And it's because it's the context I've been working with. So I'm going to present you this perspective, and then we are going to a broader point of view that could help you a little bit more while you are dealing with this topic in your classrooms. Okay? I think that before we move on to the next slide, I have just another comment about, I think that with all of this, I hope you can have this reflection, yes, on raising your learners' perception. It's very important, this third objective here, because I would like you to think as culture as something regular part of your teaching, yes? You should embed, it's very important, this keyword, to embed culture in the heart of your teaching, of your lessons, all right? So let's move on. With these objectives in mind, let's move on, sorry. Oops. Okay, so let's start the conversation. As I told you, my intention here is to talk to you, to have a conversation, yes, with all the audience. So feel free to share your thoughts, your opinions in the chat, because my intention here is not to bring something not new for you. Maybe some of you have heard about it, or you came because you are interested in the topic. So we are going to talk. We are going to have this conversation. All right? And why is this topic so important? Well, mutual intercultural communication and critical awareness are more important than ever today. Don't you agree? Try to think about it. So because through them, this intercultural communication and critical awareness, we can deal with some of the most virulent problems of our society. And what are these virulent problems? I use this strong word because I consider these problems really strong, really virulent, yes? Manifestations of prejudice is the first one on my list. Discrimination, hate speech, and also some extremist ideas advocated by some political parties. So I know it's a very strong list, but try to think that it's something that we are always worried about all the time. And maybe these items, they belong to your list too, yes? So let me just repeat: manifestations of prejudice, discrimination, hate speech, and also extremist ideas advocated by some political parties, okay? We know that these problems, they are linked to social, economic, and political inequalities and misunderstandings between people from different cultural backgrounds and affiliations, okay? We may say it touches many aspects of our lives, yes, this topic, this discussion, we may say it touches many aspects of our lives, and it's an urgent issue for us educators, yes, all around the world, not just in Brazil or not just in Pakistan. I think that it's something that really touches something that it's the aspects of teachers, of educators all around the globe. Yes. And I think this because it helps citizens around the world to live together in culturally diverse societies. So I know that it's something really difficult to think about, but as educators, we have to start something different in our classes, because if you want to have citizens all around the world, the students, they living together in culturally diverse societies, we have to start doing something. We are in class to act. That's we can say that it's our job. Yes, it's our responsibility. Yes, as educators. So this ability to understand, become aware, and communicate with each other across all kinds of cultural divisions, I think is a fundamental thing for making our global societies work. Yes? So think about. So to understand, become aware, and communicate with each other, yes, all around. So what we are doing here today, I'm from Brazil and I'm communicating from people from different cultures, from different perspectives, from different backgrounds. So if you have all these cultural divisions, cultural diversities, I think it's something fundamental for making our global societies work. It's very important. So it's a food for thought that you can reflect on while you are teaching. Yes, we have to think that we have teachers in all the four corners of the globe. Yes. And how can we, language educators, help our students develop and enhance this intercultural competence, and as a consequence, try to make an essential contribution to a peaceful coexistence? Yes. How can we develop this? How can we help our students? So if you want to write in the chat, maybe I can't follow the chat exactly right now because I'm too involved in the presentation, but feel free to express your opinions. Yes, I'm going to be very happy if you think about this. So how can we, language educators, help our students develop and enhance this intercultural competence? And developing this intercultural competence, we are going to try to make an essential contribution to a peaceful coexistence. So how can we do this? Let's think about it. It's very important. I know it's early in the morning in Brazil. I don't know if there are people from Brazil watching us right now, but I think that they can reflect. Okay, can we move on?
Yes, so we have some interesting comments, and this one from Ruqayya Manzoor. She says, for introducing other cultures, I show the learners the pictures of celebration, a short video clips of these cultural festival celebrations. That sounds great, Ruqayya.
Yeah, great, good example. Thank you for your contribution. All right, just any other contribution? Thank you so much for your opinion, for sharing your opinion. Okay, so we are going to have an interaction moment now. Yes, by the way, and I think I would like you to feel free to write on the chat about what first words or which first words or sentences that come to your mind when you think about culture. Try to make a definition, your own definition, your personal definition for culture. What comes to your mind when you think about culture, when you plan to talk about culture? in your class. So write in the chat, yes? So feel free to write in the chat, anything. If you don't have a sentence, you can think of a word that can be, that can express your opinion, your thoughts about culture itself, okay? While you were writing on the chat, your opinions, your thoughts, we are going to see some definitions, and we are going to check if they fit your definitions or if they are completely different. We have something, Emanuela?
Yes, we have Betty says way of life, Guy says habits, and Dr. Padmashri says thoughts and ideas are also part of culture. Marketing says culture is not a monolith but dynamic whole because it is everything about a way of life and is a multi-layered. We agree.
Great, yes, I totally agree. It's multi-layered.
Yeah,
Great,
Ruth
great.
Sara says set of ideas. Group of people following certain customs or traditions. Yeah, great ideas,
Yes.
everyone.
Great ideas. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. So it's very important. Following certain ideologies. Yeah, so very sad. Thank you so much. So it's very important your participation. Yeah, so I feel energized with all of this. So thank you so much. Let me just close here the chat. Okay. So as I told you, we are going to see some definitions for culture, okay? And don't worry, we don't have a correct definition for that, yes? We can have different perspectives. Remember, we are talking about diversity, yes? That's the key word for that. So, first of all, we have this dictionary entry, a Merriam-Webster dictionary, and we have the term culture defined as, for example, I can read here in the slide. The customary beliefs, social forms, material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. Also, the characteristic features of everyday existence, such as diversions or a way of life shared by people in a place or time. For example, popular culture, Southern culture, yes? Brazilian culture, Pakistanese culture, yes? Another definition, so the set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterizes an institution or organization, yes? We have a little bit different, we're talking about business context. And let us see the set of values, conventions, or social practice associated with a particular field, activity, associated characteristic. For example, studying the effect of computers on print culture. So we have this. If you pay attention, it's on the dictionary, we have what we can say it's a prototypical definition, yes? And we realize that the word, the term, it's a polysemous term, yes? So we have different definitions for the same word. So it's a mode definitions for the same word. So now we are going to compare this definition, your definitions, with some specialist definitions. And I tried to bring different specialists from different areas, and we are going to reflect about their definitions of culture, okay? And as I told you, don't worry, we don't have a correct definition. Everything is here, is made for our reflection. So how can we use this? How can we use that? All right? So let's go, let's move on. Yeah, the first definition here, we have this definition, it's a quotation by the applied linguist Helen Spencer Oaty. He's from the UK. He's a professor, Spencer Oaty. She's from the UK. And let's see what she said, what she stated for culture, okay? And try to think about it. So culture is a fuzzy set of basic assumptions and values, orientations to life, beliefs, policies, procedures, and behavioral conventions that are shared by a group of people and that influence, but do not determine, each member's behavior and his or her interpretation of the meaning of other people's behavior, okay? So it's interesting the way she starts her definition, because she says it's a fuzzy set of basic assumptions and values. So there is a relationship with some definitions you mentioned in the chat. Yes, your opinion, your thoughts about the term, and also related to the dictionary definition. Yes, so this is a point of view, this is a perspective from an applied linguist. Even if she's from UK, many people in Brazil share her opinion. Yes, so many applied linguists, Brazilian applied linguists, they share the same opinion when you are dealing and when we are trying to define the term culture. All right. So the next one, it's from a different perspective. It's not related to, it's not a language specialist, yes? Here we have James Spradley. He's a professor in the United States and he's an anthropologist, okay? And let's see, he defines culture just in 2 lines. Here in the slide, we have just 2 lines as his own definition. And he says, culture is the acquired knowledge people use to interpret experience and generate behavior. Can you see that? How deep is this definition, even if you have just a few words? And I choose this image because this image represents a lot for me, yes. It's from my personal archive, this picture, yes. It's from a trip I had in January while I was on vacation. And I was visiting a part of our country. It's near my city here, but it's in the countryside. And this place generated such an experience, such a good experience. I can say that it's such a cultural and spiritual experience that all the context I was inserted in with this sunset, with this mountain, so everything was really representative for me, yes? So that's why I chose this picture to match with James Spradley definition for culture, yes? I hope you like it, the image. And the last but not least, yes, the definition, I choose 3 definitions. It's from a Brazilian guy, yes. The first one is from a British, she's from the UK, Helen Spencer Oaty. The next one is from an American, and now it's from a Brazilian guy. So in fact, the original quotation is in Portuguese, so I made the version in English for you. And he says, his name is Celso Ferrarese Jr. Yes, so he's from Brazil, and he's a semanticist, and he studies cultural semantics. Okay, so let's see what he says. Culture is every construction emanating from the human mind, whether materialized in the form of objects or actions, or just in the form of thoughts. And language has to be able to represent everything that culture contemplates, because everything we think and do must somehow be able to be represented by the language we speak. Okay, so it's you see how important is language for this semanticist, and he's really worried about that. It's like it's a relationship that you cannot separate at all. Yes, so language and culture, culture and language. It's like a feedback movement. Yes. Okay, can you see how deep are the meanings for culture? Yes. So we have your definitions, dictionary definitions, specialist definitions. So with these definitions in mind, we may follow some authors to say that culture, in some ways, is like an iceberg, where you have here a visible part, a visible section above the waterline, and a larger invisible section below the waterline. You see how many things you can see below the waterline? So to be specific, culture has some aspects that are easily seen and others that are very subtle and difficult to see and understand. Yes? So the visible part of culture is only a small part of a much bigger whole. Okay? So you have a lot of examples on the internet. So this is one of the models. It's very interesting if you want to understand how to see culture. All right? Well, so here in Brazil, applied linguists, they have been focusing their studies on linguistic education. Let's see, we are going to see what is this linguistic education. Maybe in your country, in your region, you have something similar with a different term, but maybe something that you already know. And I'm truly inspired by Professor Valquíria Montemor. She's a very well-known professor from the University of São Paulo. It's a very famous university in Brazil. And she states that it's very important to understand these two terms, language education and linguistic education. Okay, let's reflect about this. So according to Professor Montemor, language education is concerned about the materiality of the language. That is, it's learning the language by itself. While linguistic education, yes, so on the other hand, we can say that linguistic education seeks to promote teachers and learners' development through the language. Did you see the difference? So it's a little bit bigger than that. So it's like language education is included in linguistic education. So we promote teachers and learners development through the language, fostering the construction of identities, fostering the construction of cultures. So linguistic education states that communication should happen through pluralities. So it's a very important keyword, plurality. So in other words, educators and learners, they are more used to the idea of differences, diversities, an understanding that each person is very unique, okay? Also, I'd like to mention that what is stated in Brazilian official documents. We have a lot of documents that we use here in Brazil, but one of the most famous one is this one that is on the slide. And we are going to see, in terms of intercultural communication and critical awareness, what this document states. So the Brazilian National Common Core Curriculum, in Portuguese, we have the abbreviation, the name is BNCC, yes? And in English, the equivalent is that, National Common Core Curriculum. This document organizes the teaching of English as an additional language around access. And which are these access? Number one, oral expression. Number two, writing. And number three, linguistic knowledge and intercultural dimension. Okay, this is the axis that the document worked. So this Brazilian document states that cultures in contemporary society are in continuous process of interaction and reconstruction, and that learning English implies that to problematize the different roles of the English language in the world. Okay, so we have here the scenario of English as a lingua franca. So the document talks about this. And with this scenario of English as a lingua franca, this imposes challenges and new priorities for teaching, yes? Including the deepening of reflections on the relationship between language, identity, culture, and the development of intercultural competence, okay? So let's move on. I know it's a lot to think, but I want just to contextualize in how we think of this topic here in our country, okay? Let me see. Okay, no, before. So we can understand that English language is approached from the social practices brought to the social context. And we must apprehend the teaching of EAL, English as an additional language, as something heterogeneous, is another key word that we have to think. Plurality, lingua franca, and heterogeneous. And that's why I can repeat, the key concept is plurality. Very important, keep this in mind, because which may cause a huge impact on individual competences and on the community as well. Your community, your students, and the community you work in or you live in, okay? And it's also necessary to repeat that language should be seen as a lingua franca, yes? We have some specialists like Jenkins that she uses this term, but the term is from years behind, yes, years ago. It's much before Jenkins studied, but she studied the language as talking about the functionality of the language, sorry. Okay, with this, all of this in mind, all these terms in mind, we believe that learning an additional language allows the creation of new ways of engagement and participation of students in, we can say, an increasingly globalized and pluralistic social world, yes? And we have to find out, we teachers, yes, teacher trainers, EAL teachers, how to deal with misconceptions and stereotypes when talking about a particular culture, okay? Keep this in mind. We have to think about these misconceptions and stereotypes. It's very important. So taking all this into consideration and agreeing with, we have a Brazilian linguist, applied linguist. His name is Wilson Leffa, yes? And he says that, I'm going to rephrase a little bit what his quotation, yes, because he uses foreign language and I'm going to use an additional language, yes. He says that teaching an additional language becomes a political action in which the text, okay, it doesn't matter if it's verbal or non-verbal, the text is a product of ideological, social, and political forces with revolutionary values. It's a place of struggle, negotiation, and change. Yes, he says teaching a foreign language or an additional language, all of this. So with this in mind, I'd like to make you think about another key concept, a key term, cross-cultural, yes? And I would venture to say that it's a trending topic to discuss in class. Yes, think about it. And taking this into consideration that we are living this urgent situation of immigrants, refugees all around the globe. Yes, so this global emergency, I think that this is a trending topic to discuss, yes, in class. So let me see here. Take a look at this picture here. And before we move on, I would like to mention that we are going to see some images from this guy here. His name is Eduardo Cobra, Kobra. Yes, he's a very famous Brazilian muralist or street artist. I don't know how can you say. I think it's muralist because he paints murals. And he's a very famous one in Brazil, but not only in Brazil. He's also very famous in many places around the world because you can find his paintings, his art in many different countries, in many different cities in the world. Yes, maybe some of you have seen it. And Cobra's artwork is always calling the attention to an important issue. Yes. He's a master in rescuing the importance of places and strengthening the sense of belonging of these places' inhabitants. Yes, so it's very strong. The colors he uses, yes. And when I decided to bring this image, it's because I think that we should really give attention to what we say it's a non-verbal text. Because sometimes we are just worried about written text, yes, but non-verbal texts with images are really important and they can be used in class. So the use of authentic materials is very important for the success of your lesson, all right? Do you agree with that? And let's check this incredible image made by Eduardo Cobra. Yes. Here we have a panel. The name in Portuguese is Os Olhares da Paz. So it's something like how can I say, how can we see peace from different perspectives? Yes. Different people that have been discussing peace. And this panel, it's a celebration of peace, union of people, a celebration of a world without borders, yes? Symbolized by Nobel Prize winning characters. For example, I don't know if you can identify, we have Dalai Lama, we have Mother Teresa of Calcutta, we have Malala, Mandela, Gandhi, and Luther King, Martin Luther King. It's on the last image. So these personalities' images were portrayed with colorful and playful features, striking feature of Cobra, yes? A discussion with this panel in your class could be interesting because I believe, I think we believe, all of us believe that our social function as language educators is to act, to form critical citizens. Let me repeat. So a discussion with this panel inside the classroom, maybe it's interesting because we believe that our social function as language educators is to act to form critical citizens and to awaken our students' knowledge and interests at the same time, okay? And although there are some, I think I can show another image, yes. So this image, I think it's from 2012, I don't know. It's from years ago. But this image here, it's part of an exhibition that he was presenting in São Paulo, in a very famous avenue in São Paulo, where he was trying to mix some famous artistic manifestation or paintings or sculptures with these pictures. And he was thinking about, and he released the exhibition on Labor Day. And here in Brazil, we celebrate on May the 1st. And he was trying to represent these 200s of independence that we are calling 200s of independence in Brazil, and trying to make something to celebrate the workers, that the real people that build the country. So he's having this cross-cultural message with famous paintings and real people working. Yeah. So here we have a truck driver trying to organize his load before he hit the road. Yes. Okay. And although there are some prescriptions we need to follow, such as official documents, textbooks, school policies. Yeah, so we have all of this that we have to follow. It doesn't matter the context we are working at. If you are in a public school, in a private school, university, anything, a language course. So we advocate, when I say we, I'm talking about everybody here and not just me. We advocate for a teacher autonomy to select pedagogical resources to be used with different profiles and levels of knowledge of the language by the learners. Yeah, so we advocate that these authentic materials are so important, so relevant to be used in class. Okay. So as EAL teachers, yes, as I mentioned, we should move beyond this surface level of acknowledgement of cultures. We need, as I told you in the beginning of this presentation, to embed culture at the heart of learning. So embed culture at the heart of learning and make it a regular part of our teaching. So intercultural communication and this critical awareness should not be a transversal theme, yes, like a theme like this, a theme like that. I think, in my opinion, I think I can say this is my opinion, but maybe you share the same opinion. I don't know. Maybe you can see in the chat. You can say in the chat. I think that's intercultural communication and critical awareness must be the epicenter of the class. Yes, so not only a transversal theme. You can use culture as the main point of your class, and then you can discuss a lot of things. All right. And okay, before we continue, I think that why is this so important, this intercultural communication and critical awareness? Why is this really amazing to work with? First of all, this is my impression. I hope you agree with me. I think because this, when you discuss culture, we can provide vocabulary teaching moments. Yes, new words, new expressions, new concepts. Yes, for example, if you are dealing with opposing colors or complementary colors, you can have a cultural discussion, and at the same time, you can have a linguistic, a lexical relation discussion. For example, maybe here in Brazil, we can have a discussion between blue and pink, the different colors. They are opposing colors, they are complementary colors. What is the context? Maybe in a different country, we have a different discussion for these colors. Black and white, what they represent in Brazilian culture, in Pakistani culture. Okay, so we can have this discussion. Even if we are talking about language itself, we are talking about linguistic aspects, but we are talking about culture at the same time. For example, I gave the example here that we are facing a rainy period. Yes, here we can compare these opposing weather events. Sunny time, rainy time. Is it good? Is it bad? They are opposing moments, or they are not opposing. So it depends on the culture. You are discussing language, and at the same time you are discussing culture. Okay, so these vocabulary teaching moments are really, really important. Another thing that we enhance self-awareness, our students' self-awareness. So they are going to think about who they are in the world. When you are discussing culture, you are making them think who they are in the world as a person, as an individual, as a student, as a citizen. Okay, it's very important. Another thing is this topic, intercultural communication and critical awareness. When we deal with this, we are demystifying on prejudice and preconceptions. We are trying to make students demystify this. And with this, we can promote an anti-racist education, for example. Yes, we have to make them think how to destroy this pandemic, all this kind of prejudice, ageism, homophobism, racism, all of this, yes? Not just related only to culture, but related to race, to gender, everything that is related to some kind of discrimination. We are trying to demystify. I know it's delicate, it's a bit difficult sometimes, depending the context, the students you have, but it's very important to think about this, all right? Something really important that when you deal with culture in class, you build confidence, you build students' confidence, because with this, if they have this discussion in class, they are going to be courage. They are going to have the courageous. They are going to be brave enough to expose their cultural issues, to expose their opinions. Yeah, so we are going to build, because you are giving them, the students, some space to discuss this, to discuss their culture, to talk about maybe their religion. So it depends from many things. Yes, we don't have a rule for this discussion. Yes, unfortunately. So it depends the context, the country, the city, the region, the community you work, the level of the students. Yes, so a lot of things that we have to keep in mind. And finally, I think it's really important when you deal with culture in class, we promote an opportunity to develop critical thinking and critical literacy. Yes, and it's obvious, because with all this discussion, plurality, homogeneous, think the individual as unique, think about differences, everything. So we are promoting this critical thinking and critical literacy. All right. Okay. So I think we finish here. We have some references with the slides. Maybe I can share the slides with you. Emanuela, he has the link, so he can share the slides with you. So I do hope you had this reflection. Let me just organize here my computer. I really hope you had the chance to reflect on this topic today. So try to think about what you learned today and what can you use in the near future. How can you discuss, talk to your colleagues, to your peers, yes? Check if they do the same thing and what kind of things you can do differently from your colleagues. And so you can have a very nice conversation with your colleagues all around the world. And also, if you want, you can send me any questions or if you want to keep in touch and discuss about the topic, you can send me an email, Thiago Costa @academico.ufpb.br. Yeah, so this is my email. If you feel free to keep in touch, I'm going to be very happy to answer your questions, your reflections. And that's it. So thank you so much for your interaction, for your kind attention here up to now to here in Brazil in the morning, in your country in the evening and the afternoon. I'm so happy. I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thiago Costa, for such a thought-provoking presentation. So, especially the way you told about each and everything, you made it so simple and interesting. I've been listening these comments from the participants that your speakers are too fast, but the way you made your presentation at a pace, so it was quite interesting, and we really appreciate that. We have some interesting questions for you. So yeah, I see this question from Soryali from Vietnam, and he says, how cultural awareness affect learners relationships?
How cultural awareness affect learners relationship?
Yes.
I think with this, as we discussed it, when we deal with the topic, this cultural dimension make the students reflect who they are. Yes, in the class, in the community that they live in. Yes, and it's very important to foster this reflection, not only on teacher development courses, but also in class, because you are going to help students find their position in the world. Yeah? So they are going to be aware who they are and what kind of step he or she can make in relation to the other. Yeah? So I think it's something related to this. I hope I answered the question.
Wonderful. So another question from Carlos Kali from Peru, and he asked that how to develop cultural and critical awareness in a school or organization.
Let me see if I understood. How culture, can you repeat, Emanuela?
Yes, how to develop cultural and critical awareness in an organization or school.
How to develop. So remember I told you that we have sometimes we have some prescriptions that we have to follow. Textbooks, school policies, and or some laws, depending on the country. Yes, so we have official documents. So depends exactly on where you are working at. If you have a free atmosphere, a free environment that we can use different material and authentic material, it's going to be good for you. It's going to be awesome. But sometimes teachers, for example, I'm talking about a Brazilian context, the teachers, they have to follow some textbooks, they have to follow some methodologies, and sometimes they are so stuck and they can't use this. So it depends the context, depends the school, the organization. Maybe you can talk to the boss, to the director, to the supervisor, and make some suggestions. Sometimes we need a group of people to have this cohesion and think about the same way. Maybe with this conversation with your supervisors can help a lot. Yes, I know it's difficult to change some cultures, some attitudes, but sometimes it's not impossible. Yes.
Yes, so that leads us to our next question, which is about kind of autonomy or independent learning. So Khalid asks that how can cultural awareness affect independent learning?
Maybe with all this experience that I've had with this discussing culture in class, maybe you can provide students with good stuff, good material to make them think and enhance this self-awareness. And this independent learning are going to be something quite automatically. Yes, so it's going to promote this critical thinking, critical literacy, And I think that in the end, the students, they need the educators, of course, because we are some kind of guide for them to talk about this cultural thing, cultural aspects, but they also have their backgrounds. Yes, they also bring a lot of concepts that sometimes we don't even know. Yes, some new expressions, new words, depending the students you are teaching. Yes, the depending the community that they are coming from. Yes.
Yeah, I see this interesting question from Rukaya Manzoor. She's a regular participant, and she says, how to deal with the culture where stereotypes have become practicing cultures. People have to follow these cultural practices even if they don't like.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yes, this stereotype is something really serious when you are dealing in class. Even for us teachers, for example, every time when people they know I'm Brazilian, yes, they ask a lot of things that they think when because they have some stereotypes related to the Brazilian culture. For example, Thiago, do you know how to dance samba? Do you know how to play soccer or football? And sometimes I have to say that it's a pity. I can't dance samba. Yes, I like to listen, but I can't. Yes, and I don't know anything about soccer. My son, he loves soccer. He plays soccer, but I don't know anything about soccer. So to deal with this stereotype, it's something really delicate. It's something really I don't know. It's difficult, but it's something that you should be careful when dealing with this. When you are discussing about a culture, when you are making the students think about a culture, you have to try to celebrate this word without borders. I don't know if you understand. And maybe to deal with stereotypes and misconceptions, sometimes it's really something that we have to think of, yes, to reflect. Any other questions?
Yeah, so we have some comments. Antonio says, I think that key to developing learners' cultural awareness is to have them engaged in critical reflections and discussion on authentic topical cultural issues.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
that's
it's true.
interesting. We agree. Mhm.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's true.
Yeah, Mark. Yes, Mark Ritchie says my question is about representation. How do we foster cultural sensitivity in choosing which to represent through our visuals in our instructional material? Sometimes teachers select what are visually pleasing, but the effect of such materials on their learners is to essentialize and generalize.
Yes, so it's a very good question. So I remember I told you that I advocate for the use of authentic material. But at the same time, we have to be so sensitive when choosing this authentic material. We have to try to contextualize the material with the students' reality sometimes, and be careful for not being something so that can create an impact, a bad impact. I don't know if you understand, because sometimes the students, they can receive the message in a wrong way. Yes, so it's very important to know your students, to know the audience you are dealing with before you choose an image. Don't think that, oh, I think it's a nice image, I think it's interesting, I'm going to use with my students, with my teenagers, with my children students, my adult students. So we have to try to look at the picture, look at the image, principally if you are dealing with non-verbal text, because sometimes the information is so strong that you can have the wrong feedback. For example, there is an artist that I think it's very interesting to use in class. He's Turkish. And I don't know if I'm going to pronounce correctly his name. I think it's Ugur Galenkush. Ugur Galenkush. I don't know if you have heard about Ugur. Is Agur. If you can Google, you're going to find. And he's an artist that he makes some collages. Yes, with that context, cross-cultural context. And he's always discussing the war theme. The nations that were destroyed by the war, and the nations, the nations from the other side of the world that they are privileged. Yes, some nations that we can consider they are privileged, and he uses very strong images. And he divides the picture, yes, with this strong image from war and the other from this privileged society. And sometimes it's good, it's interesting to work in the classroom, but sometimes we have to be careful who are discussing this picture, what kind of students, what kind of audience. Sometimes it's not so easy, but sometimes it's easy. Yeah, so we need to have this sensibility to discuss this according to the audience we are dealing with. Okay.
Yes, that's great. Wonderful. So maybe one last question from Pushid, and he asks, which is the age group best for connecting with culture education?
Which is the age group is best connecting? Is best for connecting with culture education?
Best for connecting with culture education. Yes. So, yeah.
Well, I can say in relation to my experience here in Brazil. I don't know. Maybe you have different backgrounds, different experiences in your country. I think that adults are the best audience to work with, but you can discuss culture with children. As I mentioned, remember the example I gave you with the colors, the opposing colors, or complementary colors. You can use this with children. You are teaching them the colors in English, for example, if they are toddlers. And then you can make this kind of reflection. Is blue only used for boys? Is pink only used for girls? They are opposites, they are not opposites. So with this, we can have this, I know it's just the beginning of a discussion, and sometimes children or teenagers, they are not going to reach the discussion, but sometimes they are above expectations, and then they reach the discussion, and then you have wonderful feedback. But usually with, if you have adults or young adults, if they have a good level of proficiency, intermediate, upper intermediate, they can have this discussion and this reflection very, very easily with you in class. I'm talking about Brazilian context. We have some diversity, but in other countries we have much more. Yeah, so it depends.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Thiago Costa, for this wonderful and interesting session. We really appreciate your presence here, and thanks to all the participants who were present with us in this webinar today. So we are available on all our social media channels. Please don't forget to share your takeaways from this wonderful session and tag us at Twitter using hashtag TD webinars. And we appreciate your participation. We are having some great presenters in our future webinars as well. On June 14th, we have Scott Thornberry talking about his, favorite and world famous dogma approach. So I look forward to seeing you, many of you there too. And for the certificate, you can email us at info.tdwebinars@gmail.com. All the details about our sessions Of course, the registration is free. You can go to www.edwebinars.org and register yourself for our future webinars. And we're available on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Please don't forget to share and subscribe our Teacher Development Webinars YouTube channel. And this recording will also be available at Teacher Development Webinars YouTube channel for your future reference. Thank you very much, Dr. Thiago Costa, once again, and thanks everyone for attending. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Amanullah, for the invitation. I'm so happy and so thrilled, as I mentioned, to be part of this wonderful team. Yes. And I hope I brought interesting things for teachers today. And if you want to keep in touch, send me an email, or I also have some social media, but through email, it's very fast. I can answer all your questions and things. Okay. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.